And here we go again. Uncan, you sent me an email at the beginning of the week, and I've got to read this out. A shocking amount of what we're reading is created not by humans, but by computer algorithms. Now, there's a little quiz here that says, can you tell the difference? And I'd just like to do one or two of these from the quiz. Firstly, I was laid out sideways on a soft American van seat, several young men still plying me with vodkas that I dutifully drank because, for a Russian, it is impolite to refuse. Now, the question was that written by a human or was that an algorithm? The next one, a shallow magnitude 4.7 earthquake was reported Monday morning 5 miles from Westwood, California. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the tremor occurred at 6:25 a.m. Pacific time at a depth of 5 miles. Which one of those two would you think would have been written by a human? And
because I know the answer is going to be easy for me, but I failed that test. Let me tell you that first.
There was 8. I got 6 out of 8, which
which is really good.
It was actually luck, but there you go. The first one,
Did you really feel that it was written by an app or a computer-generated text over there?
Well, some I thought which had a more sort of a human feel to it would have been written by a human.
I was really misled by that feeling.
Yeah, well, I was just totally lucky. But the first one, the guy who was drinking vodkas was written by a human. But the excerpt from the initial report about an earthquake was from March 2014, last year. That was written by an algorithm.
There was a poem there in that test. And the poem was...
Yeah.
It sounded more poemish. That's why it was really easy to fool people. It was... to fool people to think that it was written by a human being. But in fact, it was not.
It was written by the computer.
Yeah.
But now this is quite scary. Scary, the fact that if you imagine you are now on the computer, you think you're talking to your bank, your trusted bank you've been with for years, or your doctor.
We did that piece.
They're asking you for information. Okay, it's personal information. You're giving it, thinking you're dealing with a human. You could be giving it to an algorithm which is being controlled by some naughty people.
And Japanese banks are now hiring robots,
absolutely. Bots
to hand out loans, and you cannot fool them. We talked about this before. And this whole system, just like the stock market, the banking system, it is all controlled by algorithms and computers.
It's scary.
Do not be scared, because do not be scared, homie, is a word that only people into MMA would understand, but do not be scared, because
okay,
this is what we're trying to prevent here. If you know better, you don't fear.
We don't want to be scaremongers, but I mean, when you think about what could occur through robots,
let's not speculate.
Okay.
Because the Terminator is a movie about this exactly.
Right. Not watched it.
Come on.
No, I've not watched it.
The Terminator.
I've not watched the Terminator.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back.
Who's he?
Wow. He's been living under a rock.
Okay. Now, I want to move on to something which is quite
Before you
unusual.
move on,
yeah,
I have a question for you. Would you like to join us? And I'll turn one of those mics on. Yes, of course. Would you please touch one of the mics that you're on?
Would you like these to talk, or are you okay with that?
I don't need glasses.
I'm talking about my glasses here now.
I am not going to use your glasses
He's
to talk.
He's the one who doesn't need glasses to talk.
I do. If I don't wear these, I can't speak. There you go. That's better. Right.
There we go.
Please introduce yourself so that our listeners, if there are any, more than 5, would know you. What name would you like to go by? They call me Bronco.
I'll be a diver.
Diver. Okay. Great.
Nice to meet you, Diver.
He's an hetero, by the way. Nothing works on him.
I operate deep down.
Let's go.
Deep, meaningful. Right. I'm going to say a word. The Kybalion, which is a study of Hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece, said to be published in 1908 by the 3 initiates, whoever they may be.
Anonymous.
Okay, now there's a great quote here. The lips of wisdom are closed, expect to the ears of understanding. Or should I say accept, not expect. The introduction to this says, the purpose of this work is not to enunciate, not the enunciation of any special philosophy or doctrine, but rather to give to students a statement of the truth that will serve to reconcile the many bits of occult knowledge that they may have acquired, but which are apparently opposed to each other, and which often serve to discourage and disgust beginners in the study our intent is not to erect a new temple of knowledge, but rather to place in the hands of the student a master key with which he may open many inner doors in the temple of mystery through the main portals he has already entered.
This is a wall of text that would not mean anything unless read.
Absolutely.
Let me just put it down into layman words.
Please do, because you know more about this, I think, than I do as well.
Yeah, a little, because that whole thing is a 100-page booklet, which gives you the whole information you need about how this system works. What system you're going to ask? Anything. Anything you can conceive in your mind works this way. It's so basic, you are baffled by it. You're like, come on, it can't be that simple. And sorry, it is that simple. Let's go over the principles so that you can understand.
It would be for me, because I'm a layman when it comes to all this. But you know, when I was reading a part of this, I haven't read it all, but a part of it, things just come.
You haven't read a 100-page booklet?
No.
And you teach?
No.
Thank you. I lay my case.
I'm a teacher. Come on, I don't have to read.
Those who can't, don't teach.
No, but it actually just tells you what you already know. It just reinforces what you think.
Puts it into perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So the first principle. There are 7 principles. The first principle is the principle of mentalism.
Let's go over the principles. There are 7 of them, and let's ask our diver here,
Okay,
to tell us what he thinks about all this. Because
Okay.
these are really simple stuff.
Okay, the
7
principle
principles.
of mentalism. There's the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity. There's a principle of rhythm, and there's also a principle of cause and effect, and the principle of gender. Okay, now the principles of mentalism, the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of the mind.
What would you say to this?
Gentlemen, I never knew I was going to enter into such an intellectual warning.
It's not quite intellectual. If I can understand it, it's not intellectual.
This is all news to me. I
Okay.
think I better read the 100-book leaflet.
Just give us your lifelong experience about this. Everything is mental. When I say everything is mental, do you think everyone has gone lunatic? They are mental in a sense that they have to be locked up. Or when I say everything is mental, you say it's a projection of the mind.
Everything starts in the mind. I don't take it with the first option. I think when the mind breaks down, that's when you go really mental and you need to be committed.
Or you just are above a certain level, a threshold of understanding for others. They need to lock you away so that you don't pull the others out of the flock.
There was a case of this actually, which is from the UK. It was a guy who worked for the BBC.
Ike.
David Icke. He started off, I think, he was a sports reporter. Then he was doing correspondence for news, and he started questioning things, and he was kind of labelled as a madman, a nutter, a crazy guy.
Conspiracy theorist.
Conspiracy theorist, yeah.
This is what we really have in this system going on, especially the media. They label you something so that you are that for the rest of your life for anyone who listens to them. We talked about some news from a newspaper. If it's on the paper, it has to be right? No, not really. Exactly this. The mentalism aspects of this principle says that anything you can conceive, perceive, understand, put your finger on, whatever it is mental, because in the end, it's in your mind, or it's in the mind.
Yeah.
The matter is
Who
not
is to
there.
say it's mental? Who is to say you need locking up?
The matter is not there unless you are there to perceive it.
I think here we talk about norms, acceptable norms, and I think we have to leave the press out of it because they just write what they want you to believe.
Absolutely.
Exactly. That's the whole point of it.
So I think the mind is very individual and there is no double of us. There's only one of us.
There are no boundaries. No boundaries.
No boundaries, exactly. As Hawking has seen, genius level. And you have to be very careful when you're determining what you mean by mental, because there are some of us who are way above the accepted norm.
Which can be classed as mental,
Einstein
not real.
did really have a hard time trying to graduate from high school, a normal high school,
Yeah.
which the key here is normal.
Yes.
And the tests that we go through, whether it's an IQ test or not, or any other tests, will, unfortunately, are the best that we have in our hands to determine whether somebody is medically inverted commas, mental and has to be committed, or really is maybe
A fish trying to climb a tree.
could be a good analogy.
that.
Yeah, I like that too.
That's
Being a
Albert Einstein's again.
I'll write that down. I like
That's why it's really good. It's not mine.
Good old Albert. Okay.
Everything is mental. That's the first one.
So the principle of correspondence, the old Hermetic axiom ran in these words: as above, so below. As below, so above. And the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox and hidden secret of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing. I need to put my glasses. I need new glasses, I think. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us.
That's too much words again. Let's put it down. As above, so below. As below, so above. There's the pendulum swings both ways. If it goes in one direction, it has to go the exact amount of distance
The other
on
way.
the other direction.
Yep.
This is the basis of our modern clock. Galileo invented this in 60 years, and the atomic clock has only been in use for less than 100 years, and it's the basis of our all computing systems.
Absolutely. And most of us have been alive longer than the clock has been around.
Human eye is the exact image of a nebula. As above, so below.
Yeah.
The molecular level, atomic level, physics is the same with star beings, galaxies, whatever. It's the same. As above, so below. When you're thinking about human psyche, it is exactly the same in nations, big groups of people.
Yeah.
If you're talking about economy, it's the same in the household and in the worldwide. That's why as above, so below, so as below, so above. If you're able to grasp a minuscule, micro understanding of a thing, it is applicable to the macro. It's exactly this principle. That's it.
Okay.
If it is so simple, it is so basic that you can write books, volumes of libraries on this one alone.
Okay.
Anything you want to add to this? Because
Diver?
all you're going to give me are going to be the examples of what this principle is applicable to.
I go with that.
You buy it?
I buy it.
Okay.
Okay, so
Sold.
The next principle is vibration. Now, this principle...
that could be interpreted in different ways.
well, absolutely,
Yes,
it can.
exactly.
I was
Open
thinking
to
that
interpretation.
this principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet this Hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. They had some foresight.